In January of this year, the Minister of Transport and Internal Trade, Anita Anand, made a dual announcement. She declared she would not toss her name into the hat to be the potential leader of the federal Liberal Party, and also surprisingly declared she would not run in Oakville in the next election. Fast forward 2 months, and last Wednesday, reports surfaced that the Oakville MP had changed her mind and will indeed return for the upcoming election. Earlier today, I had the chance to speak to Minister Anand about a series of tariff and trade-related topics, but started the conversation by asking about her change in mindset between January and now.
Jason, it was really the change in the external environment that we're finding ourselves in right now, this economic existential crisis with the United States, which could have significant impact on our domestic economy. And I found myself very involved in the Canada-US file, as well as on the reducing internal barriers to trade file. And it was just not the time for me to step away from politics to go back to academia. And so I postponed that decision. I'm agreeing to continue on as the candidate right here in Oakville East, and I'm really looking forward to fighting for my seat and continuing to serve.
Speaking of fighting for your seat, in this past provincial election, a very similar scenario occurred with Burlington MPP Natalie Pierre declaring she would not run and then jumping back into the race. Do you think that the flip-flop that happened could be perceived as being indecisive and hurt your chances of re-election?
I don't feel that it was a flip-flop. I think that voters should take a look at the reasoning behind these decisions, and in particular, perhaps underline the point that I'm so dedicated to public service that I want to continue to serve. And that's how I look at it, that we need good people across the board to stand up for the country and fight for the country. And we're in a different fight right now than we were in at the beginning of January. To me, that's a less cynical, more truthful way of examining this viewpoint.
Now, there was a gathering for your official announcement, and in attendance was a Liberal leader hopeful, Mark Carney. You have declared that you are supporting Mark Carney as the leader of the Liberals and thus the next Prime Minister. However, you have worked closely with Chrystia Freeland and Karina Gould. Why was Carney your choice?
Carney has led countries through not one, but two financial crises. He's been the head of a central bank in not one, but two G7 countries. This vast experience and expertise is going to serve us well in terms of the fight that we have on our hands with the United States in this tariff war. And we need the best hands at the wheel, and he will be a steady voice.
Well, let's talk tariffs. I mean, they're here. You are currently the Minister of Transport and Internal Trade, and previous to this, the President of the Treasury Board. I mean, both positions that reflect key on this situation. In your role in government right now, what are you doing to assist in the tariff situation?
So I was in the United States last week making the case for Canada, making sure that public officials from the Senate and the Congress know very much how difficult a tariff decision of 25% imposed on Canada would negatively impact American businesses, American families, and the American economy. Just let's take a look at Texas, for example, Jason. There are 763 Canadian companies in Texas. And in terms of Texas's exports, there's about $36 billion in exports to Canada from Texas, and there are about $37 billion of exports from Canada to the United States. And so this is a very integrated trade relationships. Texas is a Republican state, and we need to make sure that U.S. lawmakers see this very point. In addition, I met with my counterpart, Secretary Sean Duffy, the Secretary of Transportation. We discussed the aviation incidents that both countries have faced, certainly here at home with the Delta Air incident last month, and we agreed to continue to cooperate as countries on that issue, and we'll make sure that we stay in close touch. We agreed to do that. I invited him up here to Canada, and we'll make sure that we're cooperating on air safety and all things transport.
As we do have these tariffs in place right now, have we seen any progress about removing trade barriers between provinces to keep it Canadian?
We have seen progress. That is my file as Minister of Internal Trade, and the federal government will get rid of over half of the exemptions in the Canadian Free Trade Agreement. That's a significant move, and we are expecting the provinces and territories to do their part. And we've seen Premier Tim Houston in Nova Scotia step up in this regard. We need to add up to $200 billion to the Canadian economy, which will occur if we are reducing and eliminating these internal barriers to trade. More work to do. We need to not only remove those exceptions, we also need to make sure that we have mutual recognition in place across the country so that individual provinces' rules don't impact the efficiency that businesses operate under. And we also need labor mobility. We need people to be able to work wherever they want in Canada without recredentialing and relicensing themselves. So those are the three pillars that I'm working on right now on internal trade, and there has been progress.
Speaking of provinces and premiers in particular, we've seen Doug Ford lead the charge here in Ontario against Trump tariffs. Premier Agnew in Manitoba making statements recently as well. As a minister in the federal government, do you feel that these premiers are acting appropriately or are they overstepping bounds?
We're really seeing unity around the table from the premiers and the territorial premiers as well. So it is very important for us to all have our elbows up, to act in unison and with unity, and make sure that we're all standing on guard for thee. This is the moment where we need to do whatever it takes to support Canada, to buy Canadian, to hire Canadian, and to travel within Canada.